I figure the right thing to do was to let it settle before we said anything about it. No,
that's true. It's you gotta. I had to digest it first. I had to digest it really fast. I had to watch it really fast just to see it. But McMahon, Bad Blood. There's a lot to talk about, man. There's lots to talk about today. So. Yes. We got to stop by Mr. McMahon Boulevard on Netflix and talk about this, because my first thoughts on this were that, there's nothing new. It's just it's the condensed version of the McMahon history timeline.
That DVD, yeah.
So it's just, for us, we've known all these stories, but it's kind of put together in a 6-part episode series, and it was the self-destruction of the ultimate McMahon. It was the rise to the top, and then his fall from grace or whatever. So
I don't even see it as a fall. This really felt like a gotcha doc to me. It really did. I mean, I've heard a lot of mixed reviews from other people. Some people are, it's just the facts. It's not just the facts.
Yeah.
I mean, especially at the beginning of every episode, you notice how they talked about how this was all filmed prior to the allegations and the dirty text messages.
Yeah. For Mr. McMahon, though, I've asked some people who don't watch pro wrestling, who didn't know anything about it. They just knew who Vince was, right? And they said they watched it. And for them, a lot of it was surprising to them. Like, they didn't know a lot of... they knew who he was, they knew what he was doing, but they didn't know how he got there, kind of a thing. So it was kind of like eye-opening to them, because they're not, like Mark's, like watching this all the time. They just know who Vince is. Like any other documentary on Netflix or whatever that you're watching. You don't know the person, but it looks intriguing enough to watch. In 6 episodes, about an hour each, 45 minutes-ish.
Yeah, some were a little longer, yeah.
So, I binged it, but, it's just, I don't know. I was kind of like multitasking while I was watching it, but at the same time, there was nothing new to really catch my attention. I love seeing the behind-the-scenes stuff and just the interviews of what's going on. But, I don't know. It wasn't too much.
I got some takes.
Yeah.
I do. Why do we watch Netflix? We watch it because we want to be entertained.
Yeah.
And we have friends who work, documentaries, and they always put like a certain skew towards it. You know what I mean? Like there's always an agenda. Okay. So a lot of the stuff is not necessarily factual. It could be spun a certain way. Things are always taken out of context. When you're doing that gotcha doc, and Netflix doesn't have the credibility with me when it comes to documentaries, because this is just entertainment, just like WWE. I also want to say this. We have accusations. They got to be taken seriously, right? These things need to be investigated. At the end of the day, they're still only accusations with some dirty text messages.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it like that.
Case ain't closed. Yeah,
it's not closed. You're innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is this could turn around right on them. Like, what's not to say that in a few months he is found not guilty? Okay, now you have this whole documentary painting him as guilty, and it's like, do you go back and fix that, or is it, because they sat on this for a while too. Like, they've been working on this for a few years, so it's almost like, once these allegations came out, they're like, boom, that's our ending.
Yeah, really.
Like, it's just ended on this, and that's it. That's
like the thing about it is, we don't know the context of said text messages. I mean, these could be something that they always did, like just dirty talk.
Yeah.
Some people like, and I don't want to kink shame. This is really not my thing, but some people like that kind of talk. It couldn't even, maybe it's not even real. It could just be role playing. You don't know the context of this. So for them to sit here and do that until you have a trial, until he's, even found guilty or found innocent, I'm not judging him. I mean, do I think he's guilty of sin? Yes. Okay. Well, that being said, I think the is guilty as sin.
All right.
But I don't have all the facts.
Yeah.
You don't have all the facts. Netflix does not have all the facts.
Sure. No, it's, that's the thing, is like, I was really interested in seeing the last episode. I think it really just built up to the last episode, and to see what happened to this documentary while these allegations came out, because they did pause filming or something, and then they invited him back, and he just never came back to finish however many interviews that he went through. And I think they went through, there's like, even, I forget how many hours of
I think they said it was like 200 hours that they recorded of this stuff.
So, I mean, I'm kind of interested to see the uncut of all these interviews.
I know. I want to
play that.
I want to see more Tony Atlas talking about Pat Patterson. He tried to touch my pecker.
Tony Atlas bringing the whole train down with him, man. Not only is he saying that we molested people or hurt people or did something to them, he's also saying that he himself was touched. But you know, you can't really talk to anybody when it's the booker that's doing it.
Did you report him? To who?
He's
the booker.
You know, but I did say there wasn't a lot of new things that we learned. I mean, there was a lot of enjoyable stuff.
Yeah.
Dave Meltzer, I do have to ask you, who had more dye in their hair, Vince or Dave Meltzer on that whole episode?
Oh, God.
Guys, man, you're old. It's all right. It's all right to show your age. You don't need to go back 20 years on that hair.
And back to those sleazy edits, right? Yeah. Or the lies, because the one thing that came out real quick was the part about Owen Hart.
Yep.
Where they were sitting there, they continued on the pay-per-view with his blood in the ring. And then I'm sitting there, I'm like, damn, the way you're wording that's crazy to me. I'm like, that made me feel a certain way because I felt dirty after watching all this. But then when the reports came out that was from the Brood on the pre-show, that wasn't Owen's blood, I'm like, here we go. Netflix, your credibility is
No, that
do
was
your fact checking, dude.
That was honestly because I'm watching it and I'm like, did they really do that? And in my head, I'm like, I don't remember it at the time. And then in my head, I was like, oh, I didn't realize that was his. And so I didn't even look. I was thinking that was the truth, right? To where I didn't know it. I just thought at the time. And then to find out that it wasn't, like, come on, Netflix. You could have asked a few more people, like, what was that?
But it's again, that's what I'm talking about. You slant these documentaries with a certain spin because you want to portray him a certain way. Because this is all leading up. You're making him look like a prick. Now, listen, Vince McMahon's definitely a prick. Okay, but I mean, you don't need to like tune it all the way up to 10. I mean, you could just leave him at a strong 7.5, 8, right? You know what I mean?
No, I know. And there's a lot of stuff that they didn't really talk about too, is like his whole upbringing, because there was a point, I believe, Vince didn't know his dad until he was 12.
Yeah.
So like when not having a father till you're 12 and then all of a sudden this guy comes out that it's your father, you're going to look up to this guy like anything because you have always wanted a dad and now he's your dad. Yeah. So like they didn't talk too much about his abuse as a kid too. I think he was abused, Vince, as a kid, and all this other stuff. So it really didn't get it because like when you see later on all the stuff he's dealing with his family, to where he's showing the same kind of tough love to his son, and he's wanting to do these kind of like weird segments with his daughter, like she's impregnated her, and I'm like, Jesus. It's at what point did Vince think like maybe it's too much? And it's like I was trying to think of it today. I'm trying to put myself back in the 90s and whatnot of when all this stuff was going on, and I'm like, it was on the rise of Jerry Springer. You know, like, oh, the fights on talk shows were cool. It was like a fight, and to show these kind of moments on TV, they were trying to go larger than life. Doesn't matter who defended.
Howard Stern method, the whole thing. Because Russo was obsessed with like Howard Stern and all these arguments and all that shit.
Yeah, and it was one of those times to where, okay, you got to separate him on TV to him in real life, but then again, what like he said, do we really know the real Vince McMahon, right? So I do want to bring up some of the revelations though, because there was some stuff, like I said, when we watched it, I didn't really know about. Quick, I didn't even know Wendy Richter was screwed. That one I knew. At the time I never heard about it, or in my time, and then when the screw job happened, I feel like I heard about it, but I didn't like look back in time to see what happened.
I believe that they brought that up on the Vince DVD. That was the WWE production.
Yeah.
So I have heard that before. I mean, to me, that's old news. But yeah, that's
one thing is like I'm trying to put myself back in there. And,
right.
One thing too is Vince McMahon's father planned to sell WWE to Gorilla Monsoon. That was revealed that too before Vince like kind of stepped in a little bit.
That I didn't know. I do remember somebody. I'm going to say maybe it was Tony Atlas in one of his interviews talked about how Gorilla bought a portion of Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
After the fact. So I mean, maybe if the plans fell through. You know, I was going to invest in something. Let me invest into a territory. Because, that was probably outside of Vince's reach.
Yeah.
Which was, I mean, I don't know how successful it was, but I mean, hey.
I know. Even all the scandals I went through, like every kind of scandal you could go through. And I was also saying that how WWE TV nearly was canceled in the 90s during the steroid trial. To where if Vince was found guilty, USA Network was planning to cancel WWE altogether. So, like, if that would have happened back at the time when they were still in the beginning, early stages of, like, Raw.
Yeah, and the early part of the Monday Night Wars, too.
Steve Austin, that he doesn't believe in CTE long-term effects. He kind of expressed that, he's gone through it. He doesn't really feel it. He doesn't know the science behind it, but he doesn't believe in it.
It's not CTE, kid. It's just too many Steve Weisers.
So he's a tough Texan. I mean, regardless of what you want to say, he doesn't, doesn't believe in it, doesn't know it, doesn't have it, doesn't whatever. So, I mean, people are coming down on him about that because they left that in the documentary.
Tell that to all these football players, dude. It's so bad.
No, for sure. The Pat Patterson allegations, everybody knew about it at one point. Tony Atlas accused Pat, of sexual harassment on there.
He accused him of touching his pecker.
Yeah, and he's also made previous claims of Patterson's innocence in the past scandals. So now he's saying that he was touched again. So I don't know. Is it just Tony Atlas?
Yeah, well, it didn't stop him from being on, what was that, WWE house there?
Yeah.
You remember that?
House, yeah.
Legends House, that's right.
I wish that still happened, man. They could still do it, but half that house is no longer with us, I think, so unfortunately. I did not know that. So also, too, Shane McMahon resents Vince's refusal to buy the UFC. I think he proposed buying the UFC when it was kind of struggling, but Vince rejected the idea, expressing doubts about its success. Could you imagine if Vince, that would have probably never taken off, right? No.
I don't know. I mean, it's a completely different product. And, Colon will sit here and tell this. He hates wrestling fans who think they know anything about mixed martial arts. I used to watch a lot back in the day. It's a completely different animal.
Yeah.
I mean, promoting it is very different. I mean, there are people who like to, do the work for the camera, your Conor McGregors, those kind of people. But at the end of the day, when these wrestling fans think that they know MMA, Vince might be right. I mean, in terms of that might not have been the right business for him, not to say that it wouldn't succeed. Dude wouldn't... I think it's very strange that they're under the same banner. I mean, look what they did this weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, they put the WWE PLE on an hour early. So, and right at the end of the show, did you notice, UFC is coming on right now at ESPN or whatever the hell it was. I was just like, wow, that's super weird.
No, it's...
I think if anybody, Dana White was the right choice to keep that company going, because I think what he did... I think Vince could have done. I don't know if it would have been as successful, because I think as great as Vince is at marketing stars, I don't think he knew how to market actual fighters as opposed to these characters that he's created.
No, sure. So, what did you think, though, overall? I mean, you want to give it a rating or no? What did you think of the whole documentary as a whole?
Listen. I'm not rating this. I wasn't a fan of it. I didn't like it because, again, there are things that are left out. There are things that they don't, didn't bring up. You think when you're talking about WrestleMania, you think you would bring up the fact that he had Muhammad Ali on the card.
Yeah.
That's not mentioned in this documentary, which I think is super strange. Now, again, we all know these things because we've seen multiple TV shows. We've seen all these other documentaries. We're smart fans. We're marks. We know what the talking about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I didn't really like it. I'm giving it half a syringe.
Half a syringe. My goodness. Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think I'll ever watch it, really. I want it was like a one and done for me. There's nothing really to go back to.
Yeah. Except for that one clip that I keep playing.
The Tony Atlas.
I want everybody to know I've been playing Tony Atlas on a loop for the last half hour before recording this. I thought Credo was going to kill me.
I didn't like Pat because he kept grabbing my pecker in the locker room. He what? He would grab my pecker.
It's in my head now. It's all over and over I hear is
pecker.